Good evening, everyone. Ramadan Mubarak. Thank you so much, Veronica, Adam, and the whole CAIR team. There she is, Lanny, and the whole CAIR team and every single one of you for the invitation, for allowing me to be here to celebrate the breaking of the fast with you tonight. It was about a year ago we were in this same room, and I think it is such an important reminder of the difference that we can make in our communities. Because looking around this room at not only the community leaders, but the elected officials of both parties, because supporting our friends and our neighbors and our communities is not a partisan act. It is an act of a community that supports one another. It is who we should be and who we can be if we ask that of ourselves and each other. But before I really get started, I want to take a moment again to thank Adam, the whole CAIR staff, Imam and Chasi, Dr. Khalid Abzuli, President of the Islamic Society of Greater Oklahoma City, Bhutana Jawed, and please forgive me if I don't pronounce your names right. If you tell me later, I will make it right. And Dr. Tariq Sattar, the board chair, I saw him earlier. He's around here. There he is. And Becky Ataya, the president of the Suryan Foundation. Nadra Chaudhry, the founding member of the Muslim Women for Humanity, and Muhammad Sazir, with the Raindrop Turkish Foundation, just some of the community leaders. And I know that we've talked about them before, but all of our elected officials that are here, by the very act of us being in the room, we are setting the example. An example that reminds us that the diversity in our communities is what makes us strong. It was upon the foundations of this diversity and the knowledge that we are all stronger when we come together and we share our strengths and our experiences that we have to continue to return. I was a little bit late this evening because I was making my way from across town, where I gave remarks at the commencement ceremony for University of Central Oklahoma for their liberal arts school. And as I was thinking about the remarks in these two really important events this evening, it occurred to me that so much of what I shared with those young people and people of all ages, as they stepped into this next phase, as they found their way to an accomplishment that for many of them presented challenges, are some of the same sentiments that I wanted to share with you this evening. Of course, there are differences, but one of the things that I talk to them about is that in everything we do, each of our journeys is unique. No two of us, no matter how much we have in common, even siblings and spouses and people who have traveled so many steps on the journey together, know exactly what the other person is experiencing. No two of us are on the exact same journey. And in those steps, as we move along, it is those experiences that we bring to the table, to any place that we go, to our businesses, to our schools, to our communities, that we have something to contribute. And at the same time, it is not possible for us to do anything by ourselves. It is not possible to get where we need to be, for those students to cross that stage, to receive their diploma without people who supported them. Their families of birth or their families of choice, their religious communities, their clubs, their interests. We are both individual and unique and beautiful in that, and we are also so deeply intertwined. And while the power of hate and fear can be a strong motivator, there is something that is even stronger than that, and that is the power of hope and connection, and the power of changing the minds and the hearts of our friends and our neighbors when we allow ourselves and each other that opportunity. So being here to me is so important, not only as your member of Congress, as your voice, because we are all a part of this community, but as a fellow person of faith, in showing that our faith communities can work together. And the example of the interfaith community here in Oklahoma and in Oklahoma City is one that is powerful and strong. So when acts of hatred and separation occur, we see Christians and Muslims and Jews and so many other faiths coming together to support our friends and neighbors, and that is as it should be. And as your elected representative in the U.S. Congress, it is my role to serve as the voice of our whole communities, not just some. It doesn't matter the party registration or whether or not we share a faith or no faith at all or where we come from. It is the role of each and every one of us who are elected to serve you to show up and to listen and to understand and to change the conversation. So part of the reason that is so incredibly important is that when we stand up and say, we have to change the conversation, when we stand up and say, it is not okay to treat other people that way, when we stand up and ensure that the laws and the policies that we are passing include our whole communities, that treat every single one of us with the dignity and respect we deserve, that is how we begin to weed out the roots of extremism, of violence, intolerance, and hatred that breeds in the darkness. Those things are only possible when we don't shine a light on the amazing members of our communities. When we don't allow ourselves to have conversations and get to know our friends and neighbors, but judge them based on false narratives and ideologies. And we are in a time when those false narratives and ideologies are strong. They're strong here and around the world. And there are those people of all different faiths and no faiths that would have us breed hate, that would have us fear each other for the color of our skin or our religion or some other arbitrary idea that isn't in fact true. And those things are powerful, especially when we don't have interactions with other people in our communities to say, no, that's not true. When we don't create opportunities to change that idea and that narrative. And I know that as Muslim Americans, many of you have faced that hatred and intolerance in your communities and in so many different ways, and we've seen that towards too many people in too many ways. But I want to share with you that this is a time, I think, to be encouraged rather than discouraged. Because at the same time this is happening, we have so many other people in our communities who are beginning to stand up. But that requires courage. It requires those of us who are friends and neighbors to stand up and say, no, that is not the Oklahoma standard. That is not the example that we should be setting. That we should stand up, and we see so many more elected officials and friends and neighbors doing that, but we can't quit now. This is an effort that requires continued dialogue, that requires that we give people the chance to understand that our lives and our experiences are not black and white, that the things that we see in the news or online that would just serve to divide us more and more and more and put us into our safe little spaces are what breeds that. So when we get outside of those spaces, that's what gives us the opportunity to challenge those narratives, to stand up for those people in our communities who are doing amazing work like so many of you, to remind anyone who makes comments about Ramadan that it is about service and it is about showing up, and that we all have so much more in common than we have that divides us. So as we, in too many instances, see what happens when those roots of hate take hold, it is really just an opportunity for us to double down on spreading and sowing the seeds of love and tolerance and understanding, of disabusing people of the notion that somehow everyone is like the stereotypes. And as Oklahomans, we know both sides of this. We have experienced firsthand both the extreme acts of hatred in too many ways. We just passed the 24th anniversary of the Murrah building bombing. That was rooted in hatred, and regardless of where it directs itself, whether it is to the Muslim community or to some other community, those things are dangerous. But we also, too, know the power of love and hope and coming together to support each other. And we simply won't and can't let hatred and fear control us. That we have to stand together against those forces and to support people as they are afraid, and to surround them with love and support. So interacting with our communities of elected officials is so critical. Interacting with friends and neighbors and those of us who are not Muslim, challenging those stereotypes when and where we hear them, even though it's uncomfortable. In fact, especially when it's uncomfortable. It means that we have work to do. But the more we continue these conversations, these attempts to break our communities apart, to push us into our corner, simply won't work. Because we know the power in coming together, and we understand the more that we listen, the more that we find those connections. So what does this mean on a practical level? It means that we have to keep going. It means that we have to look past the top layer of things that we see that cause us to retreat into places of fear, that cause us to disengage. We didn't get where we are overnight, and we won't get out of it overnight. It is a long-term, continuous effort. Just earlier this week, I had an opportunity to go on a congressional delegation trip to Afghanistan and to Jordan. This is a trip that one of my colleagues has been doing around Mother's Day since 2007, with the intent to highlight and understand and have a dialogue with both our women who are serving in uniform in places across the world, but also those women and individuals who are working to fight against those roots of extremism wherever they take hold. And as we sat with female service members and women and other people that are serving and met with these amazing women who are training in their Afghani commandos, they were phenomenal, that are risking so much to go against those forces that would keep so many people down, and the women that were elected to parliament, and the women that are doing the work, and the men that are standing with them and doing this work. The message is clear that we have a lot to do. We have a lot of work to do. But each step we take forward, each time we create a connection with our friends and our neighbors, each time we don't allow hateful policies to go unchecked, we're taking a step forward. The challenges we face as communities, both here and across the world, are many. But the opportunities for us to change our world are also great. And that is why it is so important for us to continue that dialogue, and why, even before I was sworn in, one of the first things we did was to come together in my faith community with faith leaders, many of whom I see here this evening, from 11 different traditions, to allow a blessing to go out. And although it was bestowed upon me by many of you, it was really for all of us. And that is a reminder that our differences are our strength. It is what weaves that very tapestry, and that we can create a better community and a better world with policies that are equitable, with opportunities for all of us, regardless of who you are or what you look like or what religion or faith you may be of. But we can only do that the more we continue to come together and we raise our voices together and we stand up for our friends and neighbors, and this goes in all of the different directions. So that when hateful graffiti or acts of violence plague our communities, the louder and more potent message in response is that we stand with each other and that we won't let ourselves be controlled by that narrative. And as leaders, it is our job to ensure that we are hearing the voices of everyone across our communities, that we're not just listening to the people that we understand, who look like us and sound like us. And we're going to make mistakes, because we all do. But that is where this strength of community comes together. So I just want to leave you this evening with this blessing, because it is one that, for me, resonates regardless of faith, and I would like to share it with you, and many of you I know were there. And that is something that I hope that when we move forward, we do so in a way that supports everyone, that creates a base of equity and respect. And we got a lot of work to do, but we can do it together. So I'll leave you with this. May God bless you with the restless discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may seek truth boldly and love deep within your heart. May God bless you with holy anger at injustice, oppression, and the exploitation of people, so that you may tirelessly work for justice, freedom, and peace among all people. May God bless you with the gift of tears to shed with those who suffer from pain, rejection, starvation, or the loss of all that they cherish, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and transform their pain into joy. May God bless you with enough foolishness to believe that you really can make a difference in this world, so that you are able, with God's grace, to do what others claim cannot be done. Thank you.